Linguistics might just be one of the most colonial disciplines out there. But what happens when we finally ask who gets to define language and whose voice is missing? As a linguist from a minority community, I've seen firsthand how colonial ideas still shape our understanding of language. Let's dive into how we can decolonize this field together. The COVID-19 pandemic shifted the way we learn and collaborate, opening up new possibilities for online seminars, conferences, and workshops. These digital spaces seemed like an opportunity to disrupt the old norms and introduce decolonial values into academia. But here's the catch. While free online events made academic spaces more accessible, they also highlighted deep inequalities. For instance, not everyone has access to fast and affordable internet, as we discussed in my fieldwork diaries. This disparity is just one example of how new systems can inadvertently reinforce existing inequities. So the real question is, how can we create systems that truly work for everyone, no matter where they are based? Can we design partnerships that address these power imbalances without letting the complexities of international collaboration get in the way? The answer isn't just about better technology, it's about reshaping how we approach academic partnerships, especially between the so-called global north and global south. Let's dive deeper into what that could look like. Collaboration is the backbone of academic research, but when it comes to partnerships between the global north and south, the dynamics are rarely equal. Funding systems, academic traditions, and institutional hierarchies often maintain these power imbalances, leaving some voices and knowledge systems sidelined. To decolonize these collaborations, we need to start by asking tough questions. Who gets to decide what language practices and contexts are worth of study? Who decides who is an expert? True decolonial partnerships mean challenging the status quo, embracing a diversity of knowledge systems, and making space for new, disruptive ideas. When we do this, we allow for collaborations that are rooted in equity and shared power. But how do we make sure that these collaborations don't fall into tokenism or performative actions? How do we ensure that decolonization doesn't become a buzzword without substance? To make this vision a reality, we need to rethink the very system that govern how we work together. Let's explore how individuals, institutions, and funders can all contribute to building truly equitable partnerships. So how do we actually build these equitable decolonial partnerships? How do we ensure that these collaborations are more than just well-meaning but ultimately hollow gestures? As individuals, we must start challenging the power dynamics within our own work. Ask yourself, whose perspectives are prioritized? Are you listening to and elevating the voices of collaborators from the global south? Practice active, open communication to ensure that all parties feel heard and respected. It's important to discuss what success looks like for everyone involved and be flexible enough to adjust your expectations based on these conversations. These simple steps can lead to more genuine, impactful partnerships. Institutions need to rethink how they structure partnerships and make space for true collaboration instead of imposing rigid frameworks that assume everyone operates the same way. Institutions should design flexible systems that accommodate the needs of all parties involved. You'd be surprised by how many institutions don't even consider this. This might mean adjusting timelines, reducing bureaucratic burdens, or rethinking how administrative processes are handled. It also means creating shared decision-making spaces where all collaborators can negotiate terms, set expectations, and challenge power imbalances right from the start. This will help prevent partnerships from becoming extractive and instead foster long-term, mutually beneficial relationships. Funders have the power to transform academic collaborations through the way they allocate resources. To support truly decolonial partnerships, funders must move beyond traditional funding models and develop systems that prioritize equity. This includes making sure that Southern institutions are not only included but empowered to lead or co-lead projects. It also means rethinking how success is defined. Grant criteria should reflect the needs and goals of all collaborators, not just the ones in the global north. Transparent, equitable distribution of funds and clear, context-sensitive success metrics will ensure that partnerships are built on trust and a shared vision for meaningful change. The reason why I wanted to make this video is because when I moved to Finland and started working in academia here, I noticed a lot of hypocrisy. And even though my colleagues were not probably aware of this, many of them looked like they were suffering from the white savior complex, rather than building the type of partnership we just discussed. In the end, they were the ones getting funding simply by mentioning the names of people from the global south who wouldn't necessarily benefit from those funds. And yes, unfortunately, that is enough to get funding. Talking about minorities and suggesting that perhaps at some point in their project they will benefit from the research is enough to get funding if you are from the global north. On a personal level, I'm in between these two, the global north and global south. And this perhaps puts me in the position of criticizing, or at least observing, the behavior of one or the other party. I still have some privilege that comes from the fact that I grew up in Europe, but I am also affected by the fact that I belong to a minority. And ironically, if I were from an African country, and if my passport was from an African country, I would get more benefits in Europe. And why did I decide to make this video under the linguistics category and not the academia category, even though this applies to both? It's because I noticed these patterns, especially among linguists, precisely because linguistics was built on colonialism. Thanks to colonialism. And we are not able to get rid of this label or system. During my PhD studies, I also met people from Australia, for instance, which is considered global north, and yet they are still subject to a certain type of discrimination, and they are still forced to apply rules that were made in Europe about European languages in the first place. Even the terminology that we use in linguistics is biased, and this has to do with colonialism as well. As we've seen, building truly equitable partnerships is not about perfection, but about being intentional, honest, and collaborative. It requires individuals, institutions, and funders to challenge the systems and structures that uphold colonial power dynamics. We started by asking if we can create systems that work for everyone, despite the complexities. The answer: yes, we can, but only if we are committed to disrupting the status quo and reimagining how we collaborate. And I know that it can sometimes feel like we are powerless, and that perhaps we would need an entire revolution, a whole fight, a war between the parties to solve this problem. And yet that is not the solution, that is not the way, because these issues were created by colonialism, which is one way of using the force and using power to take over by interrogating power, embracing diverse perspectives and fostering genuine collaboration, we can transform the way linguistics, and academia as a whole, works. What step will you take to help build these decolonial partnerships? Because together we can rewrite the rules. Now that you know about this, you're gonna need to know about this. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss my upcoming uploads. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.